Okay, on this video, I'm going to show you how to shade cubes. I think you'll find this fairly easy. Starts off by drawing a cube. I'm using a 2B pencil, but any kind of good shading pencil will work. I don't recommend mechanical pencils because they don't give you a whole lot of values. Values are different shades. You'll hear me talk about that a lot in the video. Okay, starting my cube off with just a square with two lines parallel to each other, horizontal, two lines parallel to each other that are vertical. And I'm going to just draw 3 diagonal lines. Your diagonals should also be parallel to each other too. And when I close up the sides or the planes of the box, I know my verticals have also got to be parallel to one another. You see these 3 are parallel, and then this line, and the line up top are parallel as well. Okay, once I have my cube drawn, I'm going to designate my light source. I'm going to have my light source on this one coming from this back area. And the light source is important because it will tell you how much value you have to put on each plane or side. And for example, since the light's hitting up top, we know that this plane, or the top of the cube, has very little shadow. Okay, it's got a lot of light on it, so I put a nice light value on that. Don't worry too much about the outlines yet. We're going to eliminate those as we go. You'll find it's really, really easy to eliminate outlines on a cube. All right, so this is getting the most amount of light. The front of the box here is getting the least amount of light. So I'm going to make this fairly dark. Now, I'm a diagonal shader. Okay, people shade all different ways and get good results. I had a student that shaded in the little circles, and that worked really well for him. So you might try that. Some people shade vertically, some people shade horizontally. You know, I just feel comfortable doing it diagonally. Although I will go back and go with different directions. I need to press a little harder on this one. Try to even that out a little bit. Now, the nice thing about cubes, it's really easy to eliminate outlines. You see what happened there? I do not have to have a line drawn there to show me the difference between the top and the front, because I have 2 values up against each other that are different values. They're contrasting, they don't blend in together, and because of that, they show me an edge. Eliminating outlines is really important if you're trying to draw something realistically. Because if you look in nature, there are no outlines except, as I said before, coloring books and stained glass windows. But you see very few outlines just in nature. And getting rid of them, again, will help you to draw realistically. Okay, so my top gets a lot of light, the front doesn't get much, and the side gets a medium amount of light. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a middle value in there. Not as dark as the front and not as light as the side. And again, I want to smooth out my shading a little bit, so I'll go in more than one direction. Designate that edge up there. Trying to do this without shaking the camera. All right, and that's pretty easy. You can see I eliminated my outlines here, all around here, and at the top I can just take my eraser and I can just lighten it up a little bit. I'm trying to do this left-handed because of the shadow, so I don't know how well that'll work. All right, now let's talk about the cast shadow. Remember that the cast shadow shows you that it's actually sitting on a surface. And if you look at the pencil, you can see the cast shadow comes from the bottom of the pencil right there. It doesn't come from the side or the top. Doesn't matter where I put it, the cast shadow is always coming from the bottom. So also the cast shadow goes in the same direction as the light source. So in this case, I'm just going to extend this line here. I'm going to make a parallel line right here and then close it off with a horizontal line. Now, where did I get those? Okay, well, the continuation of this is parallel. These are the cast shadows of these two sides. And then this line here is cast by this edge. I'm not going to make this quite as dark because I don't want it to blend into the front of the box. In fact, I might even make that a little darker. All right, there you go. Easy stuff. Let's try a second one. And I'm also going to draw the cube with a square. These are a little crooked. And I'm going to give this one an unusual cast shadow. So let's go ahead and draw 3 diagonals this way to the right. And they don't have to go to the right. They can go to the left. Making sure all my lines are parallel to one another this way and this way. All right, I'm going to put my light source coming from the corner back here. This one actually hits more about the middle. This one's going to hit at the corner, and so it's going to give us a different cast shadow. So similar to the other one, the top gets a lot of light, so it's going to be very light value. All right, now for these two sides, you kind of have to use an educated guess. They're probably getting about the same amount of light, but if I were to shade these in all the same value, I would lose this edge. So I have to make a decision, and I've decided I'm going to make this one slightly darker. They don't get a ton of light, but I think they'll probably get a little bit. Now, with this one, I can make this lighter than this value over here, but I'm going to make it darker than the top value so I can establish this edge. And these are things you just think about as you're drawing. Okay, let's do that one. I'm going to darken this one just a little bit to get rid of that outline. That outline's bothering me. So I'm going to blend it in. Resist the urge to use your fingers to blend. 2 reasons I do not like my students to use their fingers. 1, it will ruin your paper. Okay, you have oil in your fingers. Okay, so it can ruin your paper surface. And 2, it tends to look really gray. You're not going to get a good difference in values if you're smudging them with your fingers. And also, I mean, how are you going to get a nice crisp edge like that if you're smudging it? It's not going to work. Okay. So again, I've got my 3 different values for my planes. This is really bothering me because there's an outline right there. So, sorry. I'm trying to do that with my left hand, so I'm not covering it, but it's not working too well. Let me go back here and fix this. I always tell people, use your visual judgment. If something does not look right to you, go back and work on it. Make it look the way you want it to look. Okay, that's a little bit better. All right, let's tackle the cast shadow on this one. It's not difficult. It looks a little strange until you break it down and see where it comes from. So again, here's my light source coming in this direction. And we know that the cast shadow comes from the bottom. So I'm going to draw a line in this direction from here. I'm also going to draw a line in this direction from here. But then we've got this little angle here, all right? But that's easily fixed. I draw a 3rd parallel line from this corner. So I've got 3 lines parallel going in the direction of the light source. Then I make a line parallel to the bottom here. Make a line parallel to the bottom there. Okay, and I come up with that shape. I'm going to make this a little darker so you can see it. Something that I did right there, I don't know how well you can see, is I left a tiny little white edge there. You can do that if your values are similar. And, you know, you don't want a big white gap. But if you leave a tiny thin white edge, it will show your viewers that there is a difference between those two and there is an edge. Get that in there. I'm drawing from a strange angle because of the camera. I'm used to also moving the paper around as I draw, turning it in different directions, and I cannot do that while I'm filming. All right, and again, clean up my edges, make it look nice. Make it look better than that. You might hear some children playing in the background there in the backyard. Okay, all right, so there you go. If you are working on this in my classroom, you have to do a third cube, and you can choose light source you want on that.